Good afternoon, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Due to COVID-19, Committee of Adjustment hearings are being conducted virtually by electronic means through WebEx webinar, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. Participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx webinar, which is moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch it on YouTube today. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting via their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone, and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All participants will be automatically muted upon entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by city staff, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Please use only one device at a time and use additional devices, as any additional devices could cause static noise, which may interfere with the audio of this hearing. To ensure further audio clarity, we suggest that you do not use the speaker function on your telephones. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During that time, your camera will be enabled and you will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Members of the public and applicants are not allowed to use the share screen option or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. City staff will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. For all those who are waiting online, please ensure that you have called in with the number you were originally registered with. If you call in with a different number, you will not be able to speak on the item. At this time, we wish to make an important land acknowledgement. We are participating in this public hearing today online from the North York Civic Centre. We would like to begin this meeting with an acknowledgement that Indigenous communities have been part of this land and this area's history since time immemorial. We would like to acknowledge this land on which we reside and work with gratitude and respect. It is the traditional territories of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and now is home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and we are encouraged to reflect upon our commitments both collectively and individually in taking steps towards meaningful reconciliation with Indigenous communities. Now, in accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. My name is Nadini Sankar Peralta, and I will be chairing today's meeting. And joining me on my panel today are our astute members, Nazila Atarodi West, Paul Kidd, Giuseppe Bartolo, and Natasha Manning. City staff are also present, and our Deputy Secretary-Treasurer, Simon Lang, with his hardworking staff, Alex Chu, Irvin Bridgeraj, Giovanna Rizzo, and Teresa, our newest member. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. Receiving a copy of the committee's decision. Anyone attending today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body, the TLAB, will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, the TLAB, or in some limited circumstances, to the Ontario Lands Tribunal. However, the provincial government recently amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. As of November 28, 2022, only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and specified persons and public bodies, as those terms are defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is contested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair if they still wish to speak to the item. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, is given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will ask you to summarize your remarks when you are reaching the 5-minute mark without exception. When addressing the committee, please state clearly your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters described in the application only. The applicant or agent proceeds first and will make the presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to the proposal at the hearing today. To ensure that the revised application is accurate and all those entitled to the notice of the application are informed of the changes, the committee may decide to defer the application if it is substantially revised. Then, individuals in either support or in opposition of the application will be invited to speak. If more than one individual wishes to speak to the application, we ask that you try not to repeat the points already made. Committee members may ask of each speaker after they've finished ask questions, of each speaker after they've finished their presentation. And when all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has the opportunity to rebut those issues, but only those issues that were raised by the previous speakers within a 5-minute time frame. And this will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Now, on to members, we're going to confirm some minutes. We have quite a few. There's about 5 different minutes to confirm. Let's start with March 8th, 2022. In that hearing was Member Kidd as well as myself. Can I get a motion for those minutes, please?
Put forward a motion to accept the minutes of March 8th, 2022.
Right, and I'll second that. All in favor? Right, those minutes have passed. Mr. Member Kidd and Member Attarodi, we have May 10th, 2022. You were both present for that. Can I get a motion for these minutes? Member Kidd?
I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the minutes for the May 10th, 2022 hearing.
Great, seconded by Member Attarodi. All in favor? And those minutes have been adopted. Let's move on to June 9th, 2022. Member Kidd, it was yourself and myself there. I'll put forward a motion to approve those minutes, seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? Those minutes have been adopted. Let's move on to June 23rd, 2022. Member Manning, Member Bartolo, and Member Attarodi were there. Can I get a motion to approve these minutes, please? Motion by Member Manning, seconded by Member Bartolo. All in favor? Those minutes carry. That's been adopted. Let's move on now to the final minutes. It's July 14th, 2022. Member Kidd, as well as myself, were there. I'll make a motion to approve those minutes, and Member Kidd seconds, and all those in favor. Those minutes have been adopted. Great. So let's now ask Deputy Secretary Treasurer, do we have any files to close?
We do not, Madam Chair.
Okay, so there are a couple of deferral requests for this morning. And let's start off with item number 140 Florence Avenue. Members, if you can look to 140 Florence Avenue. And the speaker for that is Mr. Rock Kim.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just wanted through some clarification. Did you ask if there were any conflicts today?
Oh, thank you for that. Thank you. Members, just before we begin, any conflict of interest to declare? None noted. I have none myself, so no conflicts of interest noted. All right, so moving back on to item number 1, Mr. Rock Kim, are you there?
Hi, my name is Rocking.
Right, and your address, please, for our records.
386 Young Street, the behalf of the owner.
Okay, thank you so much. Can you explain why you'd like a deferral today, please?
We got the staff report last week, and then we didn't have chance to actually talk to the planner about revision. So we want to discuss more actually about the revision of the plans and severance. Yes.
Okay, so just to work with planning and discuss more about plans and revisions to them. There's no one else to
Yes.
speak to this application. Members, do you have any questions? If not, can we get a motion? Mr. Member Bartolo, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Through you. Seeing as I haven't had a lot of time to coordinate this item, I'll put forward a motion to defer this application sine die to allow them to coordinate with the city staff.
Motion from Member Bartolo to defer. Can I get a second? Member Manning seconds. All in favor? Right, that motion has passed. Mr. Kim, your application has been deferred sine die. Thank you. Let's
Thank
move
you.
on to the second deferral of the morning, and that is item number 3, members. Item number 3, that is number 738 Balliol. 738 Balliol Street. And in there, we've got Annalise Jansen, no one else to speak to the application. Ms. Jansen, are you there?
Hi, I'm here. Name
you could-
Elisa Jansen,
Yes.
address 707 Kipling Avenue, sorry.
Thank you. And if you can state your reasons for the deferral, please.
Yes, the homeowner noted a discrepancy in the variances as they've been submitted to the committee. The landscaping variance doesn't reflect what they wish to do in the rear yard, so they would like to ask for a deferral to revise and amend the variances to better reflect what they're actually planning to do.
Okay, so deferral requested to revise the application. Members, if you have any questions, or can I entertain a motion? There's no one else to speak to this application. Member Bartolo?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, through you. Seeing as what's reflected here is not what's actually being proposed and they need to modify their plans, I'll put forward a motion to defer this application sine die.
Okay, thank you. Motion from Member Bartolo to defer, seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Okay, Ms. Jansen, your application has been deferred sine die. Thank you very much. Mr. Secretary, Deputy Secretary Treasurer, do we have any other items to defer?
Looks like that's it for now.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's get started with our items today. And members, I'd like to turn your attention to item number 8. We're not going to start with number 2 just yet, number 8, because there is an urgency to attend another meeting by this member, and They have asked for it for quite a while ago. So number 8 is number 57, ANEWEN Drive. And we have on file Mr. Merin Hedari. Mr. Hedari, are you there?
Morning.
Good morning, sir. Please state your name and address.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to expedite my application. My name is Mehran Haidari, 1090 Dunmis Road, Unit 506.
Okay. Mr. Hedari, we do have one other speaker here to talk to this application. And I just want to make sure before we begin, if you can proceed with the presentation on this item, that would be great. This is a proposal to construct a new dwelling, and there is another speaker. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to change some items. Number 1.
Okay, so this is as per the staff report, right?
Yeah,
Asking
actually, I wanted
for revisions. So that's the March 30th staff report. So item number 1, what are you changing?
Yeah, I want to add something on the staff recommendation because of the setback that we are improving on the house. The rear deck also going to be improved to 1.2 meter.
So you're saying the item number 1 is the side yard setback to the rear platform. So you are increasing that to 1.1 meters from
Yeah. Okay, from 0.91 meter to 1.2 meter.
1.2 meters.
1.2 meters. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm hearing an echo in my voice. I'm hoping that members are not hearing that. So just making sure. Go ahead, Mr. Hedari, with the other revisions.
Yes, and item number 2 and 3 is reflected on the revised hearing notice. That is 1.2 meter as well. And number 5, we're changing to 19.8 meter as the staff recommendation, and also number 6, changing from 23 meter to 21.54 meter. That is for a 1-story addition in the back. And variance number 7, that is removed.
Okay.
And also variance number 9 is removed as well.
Okay, so I'll just repeat all of that. We've got variance number 1 increasing to 1.2 meters, variance number 2 and 3 also increasing to 1.2 meters, variance number 5 decreasing to 19.8 meters, variance number 6 it's decreasing to 21.54 meters, and elimination of variances number 7 and 9. So we've got that for the record. And now if you can begin your presentation, you have 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you so much. This house is for my client's family that they gonna live there, and they need to have the raised bungalow. And if you see the application is just 1-story house, and because of they have the issue with accessibility. And for this reason, we kept the side yard setback on the west as it is 1.2 meter. We are not changing the side yard setback on the west side, and on the east side we have improvement for the side yard setback. The existing house it's less than what we're improving right now. So right now the application has 2 opposition. And actually, one of the opposition has just concern. The concern about the drainage and about the stormwater management, and also about the downspipe that running from the side. And by improving the setback, all concern of these concerns are addressed, and we don't have any item that they are worried about this application. And also the immediate neighbor opposition, again, because we improved the side yard setback based on the staff recommendation, so their concern are also addressed. And I hope this application is accepted by the neighbors, and also my client tried to find the neighbors, but both neighbors that had the letter, they couldn't find them. They were not at home a couple times that my clients approached them and wanted to talk and explain the application to them. I have nothing to add. If there is a question, I'm more than happy to answer.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Hadari? Okay, if none, let's move on to the first speaker that's waiting in the sidelines, Mr. Michael Mandel. Mr. Mandel, are you there?
Morning. My residence is 204 Charlton Avenue, Thornhill, Ontario.
Okay, thank you so much. And please share with us your thoughts on this application.
Okay, I own the property at 59 ANEWEN Drive, which is on the east side of the new proposed structure that's going to go in. With regards to variance number 2, it initially was presented as a 1-foot offset from the property line at the front, as opposed to the standard 5'11". With a taller building and with the new structure that will have downspouts that will splash onto the lawn, all of this water is going to come towards my side of the property when you start going to much smaller offsets. Now, do I understand correctly that there's now a 1.2 meter offset to the sides? Okay, so rainwater has always been a problem in managing these homes on ANEWEN Drive on the south side. So that would be ANEWEN 55, 57, 59, 61. In the backyards, all the water drainage from storm water, snow, and everything drains to the west down towards the ravine. With the structure looking to be expanded deeper into the backyard, the problem that we're going to face is that it's going to block potentially water flow, and it's going to pool in the backyard at 59 ANEWEN Drive, my property, where I potentially am going to have increased problems with flooding. So we've got to make sure that the way the land is graded or the way the building is is caught up in the backyard, that it protects everybody to the east. Okay. The other issue is, if you could take a look, you had it up earlier, at diagram of the house number 8. Okay, it shows the side of the building. Keep going down to photo 8. It shows from the very front of the building, an absolute straight line. Keep going. That's it. Back up. Keep going one more up. Okay. Keep going one more up. Okay, perfect, right there. So it shows a land grading that starts from the very front of the new proposed house to the very back. It's a dead straight line, where in effect, the property is horizontal to about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way to the existing building, and then it drops abruptly. If they grade this on a dead straight line from front to back of the house because they're walkout basements, then my side of the property is going to erode. if they build in a retaining wall, the tiebacks are going to have to go underneath my property, onto my property. I can't imagine how this kind of grading is even possible. It's changing everything. And you've got a very small 3 to 4 foot width compared to what's on my side of the property. And other than that, I think you've covered everything else.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Mandel. Let's see if the members have any questions. Members, any question for Mr. Mandel at this time? There being none, then let's turn it back to the agent to respond to your concerns, Mr. Mandel. So, Mr. Hidari, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Please go ahead.
Sorry. Actually, the concern of the drainage and about the grading. So what I show on the drawing, it's just the existing condition. So we have to follow the existing condition for the drawing. And in the permit process, the engineering department requesting the grading plan. And the surveyor provide the grading plan. And if for running the water, then all the water running the house has to go to the outside of the building and off from the building on the backyard. And sometimes, in some occasion, the surveyor proposing the French well for the backyard to running the water inside of the property, and it has to be like this, and no building or construction happening in the city without the considering the grading and running the water to the proper location on the property. And it's the rule, and it's the law, and so the neighbor has to be sure that there is nothing be affected. And also the new examination of the building code, the building code examiner has concern about the disturbance of the soil beside the building of the neighbors. And the construction, the builder shouldn't touch the soil on the ground from starting from the property line. So it means if angle of repose of the excavation approaching to the property line, the code examiner requesting the shoring for that property. When we're doing the shoring, the ground is untouched and the flooding is not happening because everything is as it is for the neighbors and they are not disturbing any soil beside the neighbor's building. And also as I explained, by improving the side yard setback, we have no negative impact for neighbors because right now the setback is same as what we have right now. So I believe I address his concern, and if there is any question, I'm more than happy to answer.
Okay, thank you so much. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Hidari? There being none, can we entertain a motion, please? Okay, motion from Member Bartolo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I recognize the neighbors' concerns when it comes to the flooding and the water, and I kind of echo what the applicant has said. The grading will be reviewed by the building department, and that should be addressed in due course with that. And seeing as they've made the revisions requested by city staff and have modified the application, I'll put forward a motion to approve the application with the previously mentioned modifications.
Okay, thank you. Motion from Member Bartolo.
I
There's also
will add that it should be made subject to the requirements of the forestry memo attached as well.
Okay, thank you. I was just going to touch base on that. So, motion from Member Bartolo to approve this application with the revisions that I've already stated and forestry conditions. Someone to second that motion, please. seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? Right, this application has been unanimously approved with those conditions. Mr. Hadari, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
No
Have a good day.
problem.
Bye.
Members, let's go back to item number 2 on our list, as item number 1 has been deferred. So we're moving to item number 2, which is 282 to 288 Cummer Avenue. And here we have Christopher Walker. Mr. Walker, are you there?
Christopher Walker at 87 Works Lane.
Great, thank you. Mr. Walker, it seems that we do have someone else noted here to speak on this application. I also note that there's one variance and there is a councillor letter supporting the application. There's also 2 letters of support from the neighbors, and there's no objections from transport. Because we're not sure who this area resident is, perhaps if you can provide us with a short presentation, that would be helpful.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair and members of the committee. This application is regarding parking. We currently have 101 parking spaces on the site. Where the client is proposing a daycare use within a place of worship. During the daycare use, 9 of the parking spaces will be used as outdoor play area. However, the daycare use and place of worship use do not happen concurrently. So during place of worship time, there will remain all 101 spaces available. And during daycare use time, there will be only 92, but of course during daycare use time, only 5 are required. So this is really, in my opinion, technical. And that's really, that's all I have on that.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions for Mr. Walker? There being none, then let's move on to the next speaker. We do have a Phuong Nan. Mr. Phuong Nan, are you there?
Madam Chair, I can see Fong in the WebEx webinar, but can I ask that he leave the webinar and rejoin? We're having issues unmuting him right now.
Okay. Mr. Nan, if you're able to leave and rejoin. We'll just give him a minute or so. And if not, we'll move on. If we cannot hear him, we will come back to this item. Mr. Nan, if you're there, we're asking you to log off and rejoin, please. We are just having trouble unmuting him. Okay, so we're going to try to contact this agent. And so Mr. Walker will come back to this item. Members, let's move on to item number 4, because item number 3 has been deferred. So let's begin with item number 4. Item number 4 is 52 Glenvale Avenue. And we've got Lauren Rose. Mr. Rose, are you there?
Hello.
Hello. Can you state your name and address for our records, please?
Yes, Lauren Rose, 388 Spadina Road.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rose, I see we've got 10 variances here. This is a proposal to add a 2-story addition to an existing dwelling and a new porch, and making alterations to the current site. I do see that there are forestry conditions, and transportation has no objections. There is no one else to speak to this application. Wondering if members require a presentation? Member Kidd?
Madam Chair, I don't need a presentation, but I do have a question for
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
applicant.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just noticed that in the forestry report, they're recommending that you defer the application in order to, I guess, to deal with some issues with regard to urban forestry.
Yes, I spoke to David Bostock yesterday. We're not going to, we're going to ask that we don't have deferral. We know that we can deal with these situations, mostly the tree in the rear, and I'm perfectly comfortable if you accept his condition that is subject to your approval of the variances, that it be subject to forestry's conditions, and we have no problem with that. And he's in agreement with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from members? If not, we have, can I entertain a motion, please, on this application? Yeah, Member Kidd, go ahead, please.
I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application. I feel that it's appropriate and minor in nature, and make it subject to forestry condition number 2 and number 4.
Okay, so motion from Member Kidd to approve, subject to those conditions of forestry. All those in favor? Right? Unanimously approved with those conditions, Mr. Rose. Thank you so much.
So, Madam Chair, I seconded.
Okay, so let's come back to item number 2, where we have the agent, Mr. Christopher Walker, and we were trying to get on the line Mr. Nan. Mr. Nan, are you there? Miss, I've been told, sorry. We're trying to get them on speakerphone. Okay. I'm just going to pause for a few minutes, a couple seconds.
Madam Chair, we just confirmed that just doesn't want to speak and just want to listen.
Right. Thank you so much for that. So Ms. Nan is not wanting to speak. She just wanted to listen to the application. So very sorry, but we needed to make sure that that was the case and do our due diligence to everyone who wishes to speak to this application. So let's move back to Mr. Walker. Mr. Walker, there's no one really to speak to this application. We've got the one variance. You've got tons of support from the neighbors as well as the councillor. Transportation has no concerns. Members, do we have any questions for Mr. Mr. Walker, sorry? If none, can we entertain a motion, please? Member Apterodi, go ahead.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with no condition.
Okay, a motion from Member Atterodi to approve this application with no conditions. Can we have someone to second it, please? Seconded by Member Manning. All those in favor? This application has been unanimously approved without conditions. Thank you, Mr. Walker. Member Atterodi, your microphone is low, just to let you know, okay? All right, members, let's move on to item number 5. Item number 5 is number 2, Menorca Place. So item number 5 has one variance. There is a staff report with a small condition. There is a Councillor Burnside letter asking for deferral, as well as the Don Mills Residents Association also asking for a deferral. And on the call, we've got one other person to speak, plus the agent and Andy Tran. Mr. Tran, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Great, I can hear you, Mr. Tran. If you can state your name and address for our records.
Yes, thank you. This is Andy Tran from Suite Additions. We are the house designers for this project.
Right, thank you. So I guess you're aware of the staff report with the condition and, you know, the requests for deferral?
Yes, I am aware of it.
Okay, then we do have one other person to speak to this application. If you can provide us with a short presentation, that would be helpful.
Absolutely, yes, thank you. I had submitted a presentation. I'm not sure if it was received.
Yes, we're pulling that up right now. If you can begin.
5 slides, okay, great.
You can begin while they're accessing
okay.
it.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Andy Tran from Suite Additions. I am the agent and house designer for the applicant, Justin and Rebecca Chung, the owners of 2 Minorca Place. So this is for a new ancillary building, specifically a garden suite. The rendering on the image there is actually an indication of what this garden suite would look like once that gets pulled up. The reason I wanted to do this quick presentation was to help address some concerns raised by the letter that was sent in by a neighbor, as well as a letter from the residents group. So I'll try to keep this brief. So the subject lands is a detached single-family property on a corner lot in the RD zone in Ward Don Valley East 16. So I have the site plan there that I wanted to reference.
Okay, our application technicians are trying to pull that up. They didn't note a presentation yet from you, but it may have been received late. But they are pulling up what they can to at least show members on screen. So please do continue.
Okay, sounds great. Okay, I'll do that. So the site plan of the proposed garden suite, we have requested a single minor variance, which is a reduction in the setback from the side yard facing Laurentide Drive from the required 3-meter setback to 1.83 meters. I'd like to first address the concerns from the neighbor directly to the north at 35 Laurentide. Yep, so it would be the next slide there. Oh, the third one, please. Yep, that one, thank you. So I won't respond to some of the non-relevant items outlined, which includes concerns of, quote, traffic from potential rental tenants and, quotes, increased noise levels impact on nearby property values, setting a precedent for garden suites in the neighborhood, etc., end quote. The last item there is actually part of the city's EHON initiative. So I'd like to address the following items, concerns of, quote, impact to safety, including fire and flow of weather-related precipitation. Again, the variance requested is for a setback reduction of less than 4 feet is facing the street and not any neighboring properties. So there would be no impact from a fire safety or water drainage concerns to their property. And the intention is to drain all the water from the garden suite above grade to the existing property. Fire safety concerns are addressed by our compliance to Part 9 of the Ontario Building Code and spatial separation requirements. They also have concerns about the ratio of building versus green space. Of course, we must comply with soft landscape bylaws. We are not asking for any variances there. Can I move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. Next, I'd like to address some concerns of the Don Mills Residence, Inc. There were a number of concerns as it relates to the treatment of the rear yard. Again, we would have to comply with all the existing bylaws and building codes, but for the benefit of the respondent, we'll outline some of the intentions in terms of the rear yard in this rough site plan. So number one, there is substantially greater than the minimum required 1 meter wide walkway for both access to the unit and to the bicycle parking spaces. Number two, concerns about the spatial relationship between the main building and the garden suite. Here, we have maintained the minimum separation of 5 meters between the main building and the garden suite. The elevations of the garden suite were submitted as part of the zoning applicable law review. And the height of the building is planned at a maximum of 3.94 meters, with other areas much lower. Soft landscaping has been shown in this site plan for both the existing house and the proposed garden suite and is intended to fully comply with the bylaws. There was also a concern about the compliance of this application with the garden suite amended zoning bylaws. We had received the results of the zoning applicable law review on October 25th of last year, and this setback reduction was the only item. And of course, we intend to comply with every other bylaw. And then just the last slide there, please. So again, that's just a rendering of what we intended to look like. The bottom photo is just a similar garden suite that we're designing that was completed. So that's just an idea of what it's going to look like. In conclusion, we believe that we're able to satisfy the 4 tests of the minor's variance here. The proposal is in line with the official plan of Toronto, the EHON initiative, and Bill 108 for detached accessory units in the city of Toronto. It's congruent with the intent of the revised garden suite bylaw and in line with Toronto gentle density goals in the neighborhood. It's appropriate for the neighborhood to have this type of well-built housing and gentle density at a scale that doesn't change the character of the neighborhood. A home such as this will be slightly more affordable than owning or renting a standard home in the area and will be great for the community. The single variance for a reduction of less than 4 feet on the side yard we feel is indeed minor. And thank you to planning staff for supporting this minor variance. With that, I respectfully request the members of the committee to approve this minor variance so that we can proceed with building this well-built, well-constructed home and slightly increase the density. Thank you very much. I'll be available for any questions.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Tran. Members, do we have any questions of the agent? Right now, I do note that the other person who is wanting to speak also is with Suite Additions. That is the company that is representing the proposal. And what I do want to say is that we do have a serious request for a deferral from the councillor on this matter, as well as the Don Mills Residents Association. The councillor is basically saying that they need more details on the proposal, and the Don Mills Residents Association said that there's concerns about the supporting documentation that posted that they could not have been adequately evaluated with the zoning bylaw, and a number of other concerns that were raised around the timing of how things were posted. So with that, if there's any questions you have for Mr. Tran, I can move it along to Mr. Duchan. Mr. Duchan, are you there? I know you wanted to speak to this application.
Madam Chair, Duchan is not in the list of attendees right now.
Okay. So he's not logged in. I presume he probably wanted his agent to take a look at that. So members, we do have a decision to make right now on this. This is one variance.
Madam Chair, were you going to address the deferral request from the councillor?
They have the deferral is one of their decisions that they have to make, whether they want to defer or to approve, or to approve with conditions, or to deny. So, yeah, we have addressed it. So the members, if there is a need for a motion right now, or unless there's any other final questions, you have a decision to make. And with that, also consideration of, any requests for deferral as well. If you don't feel that that's warranted, feel free to make whatever motion you feel is right for this application. Okay, before we actually do that, I just want to hear one more time from the agent if there's anything, in case there is a deferral motion to defer, the agent, I'd like you to just respond to the request for deferral, if there's anything that you'd like to say, Mr. Tran.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. I would really, I guess, just like to indicate that this garden suite policy has been in the works for a couple years ahead of the laneway suite policy, and there's been a lot of time spent on it. So we've done everything on our part to be in compliance with letting the notifications, posting the sign ahead of the required 10 business days beyond the minor variance hearing. And as I said, we would be complying with every other bylaw to ensure landscaping access. So I'm not sure, other than concerns specifically dealing with the setback and the concerns of fire and water precipitation. It appears that the items that were outlined in the respondents' letters aren't necessarily applicable in this case with that minor variance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And now with that, can we entertain a motion, please? Okay, Member Bartolo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I've heard everything that the applicant has to say, and reading all the documentation, I'm in agreement with the staff report and the arguments of the applicant that this is in keeping with the new and up-to-date policy of the city, and I do see this as a minor item. So I'll put forward a motion to approve this application, subject to the condition that the height of the ancillary building be developed in accordance with the east side elevations attached to the report.
Thank you. Motion from Member Bartolo to approve this application, subject to the one condition of the staff report. Can I have someone to second that? Seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? All those opposed? Member Manning dissenting. Sir, your application has been approved with those conditions. Thank you very much. Okay, members, moving on.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I believe there's a bit of a delay in my camera. I was not dissenting.
Oh, you were not dissenting. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
So if we can have for the record that all parties have approved this with condition. Thank you so much, Member Manning. Okay, let's move on to item number 6, which is 25 WESTGROVE Crescent. 25 WESTGROVE Crescent is a proposal to construct a rear deck to the existing dwelling. We only have one speaker noted, and that is Wanda Eli. Miss Eli, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, hello. Can you state your name and address
hi.
for our record, please?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Wanda Ely. I work for Wanda Ely Architects, and we are the agent and architect for the homeowners at 25 WESTGROVE. And my address is 1067 Bloor Street West in Toronto.
Thank you so much, Miss Ely. Members, this is an application that has 2 variances. There's no one to speak to this application. There's no other reports. Do you require a presentation? There being none, Ms. Ely, is there anything else you'd like to tell the members before they take this into committee for decision making?
Yes, I'd just like to state that the homeowners have been sensitive to their neighbors and have actually spoken directly to the neighbor directly north, directly south, and directly east, and those neighbors have no concerns. The change is extremely minor, and I don't see it as affecting any of the neighbors anyway, but they've gone through the correct process, and I believe that the request is minor, and yeah, that's all I need to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. There being none, members, if you have any questions of Ms. Ely at this time, if not, a motion, yes, Member Manning, go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair, I think this is very minor, so I'd like to make a motion to approve this application with no conditions.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Member Manning approving without conditions. Can I have a seconder for this? Seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Right, unanimously approved without conditions, Ms. Ely. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I am seeing a delay in Member Manning's camera, so I'm not sure if there's a moment that maybe you can log off, log back in while we get started on the next application, which is item number 7. Okay, item number 7 we're moving to is number 11 Kirkland Boulevard. 11 Kirkland Boulevard is an application to construct a new dwelling, and we don't have any other speakers. There are 7 variances. I do note that there's an April 3rd staff report asking for variance number 6 to be modified, as well as forestry conditions apply, and 7 letters of support. We've got a Mr. Drew Laszlo as the agent. Mr. Laszlo, are you there?
I'm Drew Laszlo, agent for the owner. My address is 193 Rowe Avenue.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Laszlo, I presume that you have some revisions that you can record for us right now. What would those be?
Yes, correct. Thank you. I would like to modify, based on multiple discussions with the planning department, I'd like to modify variance number 6. I'd like to reduce the proposed lot coverage down to 41.5%, please.
Okay, variance number 6 reduced to 41.5%. Any other revisions today, sir?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. There are forestry conditions, letters of support. There is no other person to speak to this application. Members, do you require a presentation at this time? There being none noted, and I know Member Manning is logging back in, but we do have quorum. So unless there's any questions for the agent at this time, can I get a motion? Member Attarodi, please go ahead.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with one modification. Variance number 6, the lot coverage is now 41.5%, and also would like to add this staff condition that the proposal be developed substantially as per revised site plan drawing stamped as received on April 3rd, 2023, attachment number 1. That's my motion with no other condition. Oh, with the forestry.
Thank you.
Subjected to.
All right, so motion from Member Attarodi to approve this with the staff conditions and the changes made by the applicant here today, as well as forestry. Can I get a seconder for that? Seconded by Member Bartolo. All those in favor? Mr. Laszlo, your application has been unanimously approved with those conditions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Great. Moving on, members, as you know, we've already heard item number 8, so let's move on to item number 9. That is 173 Woburn Avenue. 173 Woburn Avenue is an application to develop a new 3-story dwelling. This has 6 variances and 1 letter of concern. We do have someone else to speak to this application, but in the meantime, let's call upon Nicola Sacconi, the agent. Ms. Sacconi, are you there?
Morning, Madam Chair, members of committee.
Oh, Mr. Sacconi. Okay, thank you. If you can state your address for records, please.
So 103 Glenlong Avenue in Toronto, Ontario.
Thank you so much. So, Mr. Sacconi, because we have someone to speak to this application, do you mind providing us with a brief presentation?
Yes, before I do, I did speak with both neighbors to the east and the west. I would like to revise one variance and remove another one.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
The variance I would like to revise is number 3, pertaining to building depth. The current proposal is 21.12 meters. I would like to reduce it to 18.53 meters.
Okay, so variance number 3 is
And-
reduced to 18.53 meters. And what else?
Correct. And then number 6, remove it completely. So I will be complying with number 6.
Okay, so variance number 6 has been removed. Great, so that leaves you
Correct.
with, 5 variances, and there was that one letter of concern. Perhaps they're here to speak to it right now. But go ahead with your brief presentation for our committee members to hear.
Sure. So I'll go down the list. Item number 1, it's really a topography issue. If you pull up my drawing, number 9 of 9, basically the west elevation, it could probably show you, all the way at the bottom. If you look at, right there. So if you look at the topography from the front is all the way to the left side. My height from average grade there is 1.09 meters. As you can see, the grade slopes all the way to the back, which now it's 1.5, I believe it's 1.54 meters or 1.514 meters. There's basically a grade change of 0.424 meters. Essentially, this variance, it says that this deck cannot be higher than 1.2 meters. Due to the topography, now my deck in the front conforms, but my deck in the back doesn't. Just like my neighboring homes, the deck has one step down from my first floor. So really there's a relief I'm asking of just over 0.3 of a meters, just be due to the simple topography of the grade. The number 2 is regarding front wall height. If you scroll this to 7 of 9, so if you scroll up 2, it's basically the side elevation. Now, the front of the house, as you can see, is on the right-hand side. It goes up 2 stories, and then I pull it back. That jog back to the 3rd floor is approximately 13 to 14 feet away. So, when I look at this, in my eyes, I think the main wall height, like that wall height right to the top of the parapet, is probably about 7 or 7.6 meters. But what the zoning examiner says, it's the full height. So it's calculating from the average grade right to the top of my 3rd story, which I'm permitted in this area. The neighbor to my, I believe to my west, has 3 stories. I'm not going to be any higher than that home that's currently there. It will step back on the 3rd story. Getting to the front yard setback. This street, all the homes are very close to the front yard. So if you go to the beginning of the page, the first, you could see that this proposed house is basically right in the middle between the house to the, or sorry, go up a little more. Yeah, no, up a little more. Yeah, so you could see my front of the house is pretty much at average grade, at the average between the neighbor to the west and the neighbor to the east. I'm right in between them. It just, I guess, the lay of the street, a lot of the houses are very close to the property line. If I comply to this, then I'll just push the house further back, which concern that neighbors had was privacy. And I'm going to get to that in a second. So now with the building depth reduced to 18.53, I don't want to push it any back. And I'm in the medium of both of my neighboring houses. The last variance I'll be seeking is floor space index. I could tell you in March of 2023, March 9th to be exact, there was 320 Woburn Avenue that was approved for 1.06 times. I initially had this home at 1.33 times, which I've it's now at 0.956 times. So I believe now I'm more in keeping with this area and what has been approved just not too long ago. And also, I did speak to the neighbor to the east. I did agree that I would put privacy screens on my porch, on my rear porch, to shelter them from, I guess, so it could remain private on both sides. So I did agree to that as well. That's it. If you have any questions, I have no problem answering them.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Sacconi. Do we have any questions from the members to this agent? Oh, okay, if none, let's go to the next speakers. It's one speaker. I think there's a Nora Love and Edward Klajman that are together. Nora Love, yes, are you there? Okay, if you could state your
Yes,
name
I
and
am.
address, please.
Yes, I'm Nora Love, and I live at 171 Woburn Avenue. And Mr. Sacconi's indicated he's addressed the concerns we had, which are by putting up a privacy fence and reducing the building depth and removing the variance of the soft rear landscaping, which was our main concern. So at this point, as long as he proceeds with those things, we're happy about that. It was just we hadn't received those final changes from him at the time that we agreed to come to the meeting. So.
Okay, thank you. So you're in agreement with the changes he's made, and if the committee does accept it, they would make it subject to those changes as well. In
That's
terms of the fence issue, though, that's something that would be a private agreement between the two of you. So just to ensure that you may be able to tackle that privately with the agent. Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Members, do you have any questions of Ms. Love? There being none, can we entertain a motion, please? Yeah, Member Kidd, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the proposal as amended represents a good compromise for this property. And I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application with the amendment that the proposed building depth be changed to 18.53 meters and that variance number 6 be deleted and without condition.
Motion from Member Kidd to approve with those conditions. Can I get someone to second it? Seconded Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Opposed? Member Bartolo dissenting. Mr. Sacconi, your application has been approved with those conditions.
I was just a little delayed there.
Oh, sorry. Everyone has
It's okay. It's
agreed. I think there's
we're a half second behind on the camera or something like that.
Okay, so I'll just pause for a moment next time because I think that there is a little delay in the cameras right now. If we're having that, members, please feel free to log on and log off again. So, Mr. Sacconi, your application has been unanimously approved with those conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Members, we'll turn over to item number 10 and then we'll take a break. So item number 10 is 19 Ridley Boulevard. This is an application to construct a new single-family dwelling, and this has 5 variances. There is 1 letter of objection and forestry conditions, and there is a couple that is wanting to speak to this application. They're the couple that live right next door. So, Mr. Franco Di Romano, are you there on the line, the agent Romano?
Morning, Madam Chair. Franco Romano, Action Planning, 2095 Autumn Breeze, Port Credit.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Romano, because we've got someone to speak to this application, if you can provide us with a brief presentation, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you kindly for that opportunity. If staff can kindly bring up my presentation slide. That would be terrific. So this is a property that's located on the east side of Ridley Boulevard, and Ridley runs on a bit of an angle, so that creates an irregular lot fabric. The lot is generally rectangular, but it has an angled front and rear lot line. And the way the zoning bylaw today measures certain things is a little different than what it's how it's measured in the past. So what you'll see here is that the proposal is for a two-story detached dwelling. It's 2 stories. There's an integral garage. It's very much in keeping with the existing dwellings, particularly newer construction that has that same framework. In terms of the building depth is measured on an angle, and I've highlighted that on the site plan drawing that staff have kindly put up on the screen. Thank you. So that measurement is taken from the front yard setback to a rear 1-story bump out, and that is towards the center of the building. So it's not even measured towards the edge of that 1-story bump out. And that angled measurement is different than what has been measured in the past under previous zoning bylaws. I've looked at other properties within the same block with that angled portion, and we'll see that the proposal is actually shorter in length than each of those other dwellings that are next to the subject site on the same side of the block. The actual building length or depth from front wall to rear wall is shorter at 17.56 meters, and that's also shown there. The front yard setback basically follows the existing neighbor's condition, and that is consistent along the front. And at the rear, we'll see that it's actually just short of 0.6 meters. It's about anywhere from 0.45 to 0.6 meters longer than the neighbor's building. But that is virtually imperceptible in terms of the differences along the street. The floor space index that's being proposed is 0.61, whereas 0.6 is permitted. That represents 4.5 square meters over 2 floors, which is, again, I would say imperceptible and in keeping with what's occurring on the street, where floor space indices in excess of 0.6 are quite common. If you have a 2-story dwelling, you're basically at or above that 0.6. The main wall is 8.94 meters instead of 8.5, and you'll see that that is still represents a conventional building, low-rise building, and that's in keeping with the main wall heights that are found on the street. That's also a new regulation, and some of those buildings that we see on the street are taller in terms of main walls. But the overall building height is definitely less than the zoning bylaw permits. And I've also highlighted in the site plan with some magenta lines to show where those rear decks are. The rear deck projection is 3.05. It's just over the 2.5 meters that's permitted, and we'll see that those are 1 and 1.2 meters above grade. So it's very ground oriented. This slide also shows the other neighboring and across the street dwellings, which the proposal is compatible with. So I would submit that the application has strong merit, respects and reinforces the neighborhood character with no unacceptable adverse impacts. And subject to any questions, Madam Chair, submit that the proposal is minor in nature. Thank you kindly.
Thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Romano? Okay, there being none, let's move on to the next speaker. And this is a couple. It's a Sandra Nadalini Gunn and Mr. Stuart Gunn at 17 Ridley Boulevard.
Madam Chair, Ms. Manning have a question, sorry.
Yeah, sure. Sorry about that. I didn't see that. Go ahead, Member Manning.
I just wanted to know if the applicant has any comments about the impact of sunlight on the neighbors.
Mr. Romano?
Yes, thank you for that question. I was just waiting to get unmuted. So in my opinion, the difference between what is being proposed and what is permitted is an imperceptible difference, particularly from a shadow perspective. I know that the building length from front wall to rear wall at 17.56 meters, that is the more conventional building depth measurement. And that is something that is very reasonable and common in this area. And what we'll see in terms of the sunlight, there was a comment from the property to the north regarding sunlight, and the sun, as it trajects towards the south and turns towards the west, which is on the left-hand side, is still going to allow for full exposure of sun in the backyard. The proposed backyard rear yard setback is about 3 times the minimum required under the zoning bylaw. So I believe that there's no sunlight impact. And just to reiterate, the building depth that the zone examiner has calculated extends to that 1-story bump out. So there's a significant amount of open space, not only above that 1-story, but surrounding that 1-story bump out to the back of the dwelling that is open to the air. So that is, there's going to be no sunlight affected towards the north or south as it relates to that 1-story bump out, and certainly the open space that's around the perimeter of that 1-story bump out.
Oh, okay. Does any other questions for Mr. Romano before we move on? Okay, so let's bring back out again Ms. Sandra Gunn and Mr. Stuart Gunn.
Hi there, this is Stuart Gunn from 17 Ridley Boulevard, next door.
Right, great.
I'm Sandra.
And would one of you like to speak or both of you?
I can speak. My wife, Sandra, might add to a
Okay.
couple comments if I can.
Not a
get
problem.
anything. So,
Go ahead.
our main concern is the depth of the house. It's basically, it juts out so far in the back that we're losing a lot of the daylighting. And it's a major concern for privacy, and also the fact that they have a deck back there. It'll be like basically perched right into looking into our backyard, especially the depth that they put the house at.
And into our house, probably.
Okay, any other comments?
Everything else is fine, like the design of the house and the setback from the front seems fine. It's just the size and the depth of the house, it just seems like overkill. It's a very deep lot, and I don't know why they're pulling the house so far back. They should have more green space in the backyard.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions of Mrs. Gunn or Mr. Gunn? Okay, there being none, let's call the agent back in, Mr. Romano. Am I saying it correctly? It's Romano or Romano? Romano, okay. Are you there, sir?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
It's you know, any way you'd like to pronounce it is fine with me, but it is Romano. That's no worries.
Okay.
So thank you for the neighbors' comments there. So the important thing to note here is that because the lots, as we move northwards, so on this plan up towards the top, buildings are going to automatically be a little deeper than the neighboring buildings, just by virtue of where that minimum front yard setback is required. So the proposal, actually, if we looked at building depth towards the south, it's pretty well compliant with the 19 meters. That 1-story bump out that triggers the 19.99 is towards the opposite side, although it has a larger setback even on that northerly side, and it's only a 1-story bump out, so it's not really an extension deeper into the lot than what the planned context or even the existing context would contemplate. And that rear deck that's nearest to number 17 on that rear elevation, it's the left-hand side deck. So that's the one that's just about 1 meter off of ground level. So the difference between a 2.5 meter projection and a 3.05 meter projection is not a substantial difference. There is a railing along that side which is opaque, and I don't believe that there's going to be any overlook, certainly none over a privacy fence. But I'm also happy to offer a 1.5 meter privacy screen along the south side of that south deck to further enhance and mitigate any overlook that may be perceived in that instance. So if there are any further questions, I'm happy to assist, Madam Chair. Thank you kindly.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions from the members of Mr. Romano? Okay, there being none, can I get a motion noting that there's 5 variances? You've heard the concerns of the neighbor. Forestry conditions do apply. Motion from Member Manning.
Through you, Madam Chair, I've listened to the arguments of the applicant as well as the concerns of the neighbors. I am satisfied by the applicant's explanation that there's no substantial difference in the bump out, the effects of the bump out as well. So I would like to make a motion to approve this application, subject to the conditions of forestry.
Okay, motion from Member Manning to approve this, subject to forestry. Can I get someone to second it? Seconded by Member Bartolo. All those in favor? Okay, unanimously approved. Thank you so much, Mr. Romano. Your application has been approved with those conditions.
Thank you kindly. Have a good day.
All right. Members, let's take a 10-minute break, and when we come back in 10 minutes, we'll start with item number 11, which is 133 Airdrie Drive. Thank you. Okay. Hello, welcome back everyone from your break. Thank you for that. We were just dealing with a couple of technical issues here and we're back on. So let's get started again with item number 11. That is number 133 Airdrie Road. And this item, let me just pull this up here, is the agent is actually requesting a deferral for this item. And we have Nafisa Zanjabadi. The agent, Zanjabadi, are you there?
Good morning, Madam Chair. This is Nafisa Zanjabadi. I'm the agent.
Okay, thank you for that. If you could state your address for the record.
This is 30 Apple Orchard Path, Thorn Hill, L3T3B6.
Okay, I understand you're requesting a deferral of this item. Can you state your reasons for the deferral, please?
Yes, we received a couple of letter of objections from our neighbors last minute. So we didn't get a chance to talk to them and hear their concern and revise the drawing accordingly.
Okay.
So we need more time to talk to them and also to the planning staff to address their comments.
Okay, that's fair and that's honorable of you. We do have some of those neighbors, I presume, on the line here. So why don't we check in with them first and see if they're objecting to the deferral, and if not, we'll move forward to a motion on this. Members, do you have any questions on the deferral so far? Okay, if not, let's move on. I have Sharice Kelly and Joel Fisher on the line. Mr. Fish? Sharice Kelly or Joel Fish?
Madam Chair, Sharice Kelly has been unmuted.
Oh, hello, can you hear?
Yes, I can. If you can state your name and address for the record.
Sure. So my name is Charis Kelly. I live at 131 Airdrie. My partner, Joel Fish, is right beside me because we work at the same hospital. So he's here as well. Do you want
Hi there. My name is Joel Fish, Joel. Last name is Fish, Fish. Both live and are owners at 131 Airdrie Road.
Thank you for that. Now, as you would have heard from the agent, they want to defer the application at the next possible date just to be able to have a chance to talk with neighbors. Are you okay with that?
We're perfectly fine with that. There was not a lot of time set from the delivery of the letter to us being able to go in, so that would be more than fine from our perspective.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, that being done, let's move on to the next neighbor, Matthew Lee. Mr. Lee, are you there?
I am. How are you?
Yes, thank you. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, and I understand that if you can state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Matthew Lee, 134 Airdrie Road, and the property is approximately across the street from the proposed property changes application.
Right, and you've probably heard from the agent today that they do want to defer this application in order to speak to the neighbors. Are you in favor of that deferral?
I actually am not in favor of that deferral.
Okay.
I'd like to proceed.
Okay. So I've had it noted that you would like to proceed, so we'll make a decision based on all of this. And can you state why you'd like to proceed? Just so that our members can hear, what's the reasons why you don't want this deferred? And not to the merits of the application, but just to the deferral request itself?
Well, I'm a little disappointed for the, on two regards. I think disappointed in the short notice of the application and the hearing and the timelines to get our input and actually be present for this call. And so I know myself and the neighbors have scrambled to make our views known. And as such, I would prefer that we proceed with the hearing. And I really don't foresee conversations with the developer really changing much unless they present a changed design to meet the concerns that would be expressed at this hearing.
Okay, thank you for that. And just to share with you that I think that's what the intent was, is to defer in order to get more feedback and to make revisions to the application. That's what I thought I heard the agent say. But thank you for that. And let's move on to the next speakers. They're a couple at 135 Airdrie. That's a Josh Paul and Christine Lacey. Are you there?
Yeah, good morning. My name is Josh Paul. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well. Go ahead.
Yeah, my address is 135 Airdrie. We're the northern neighbor of the proposed development. And I'm here with my wife, Christine Lacey. So I think we really share a lot of the frustrations that Matt has articulated. We received this letter with no prior communication from the developer. We received the letter on April 3rd, and we had to get comments in by April 4th. And there are a significant amount of variances here. However, that frustration stated, thank you for indulging it, we would be amenable to deferral to ensure that the proposal that comes forward is amenable to all parties at a future date.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So you're amenable to a deferral today. All right, so let's move back to the agent, Ms. Zanjabadi. Do you have anything to say before our members take this into committee for deliberation on the deferral? 2 out of 3 are amenable to a deferral. 1, Mr. Lee, is not, and you've heard the reasons why. Can you share your perspectives on that before our committee makes a decision?
And yes, as I stated before, the reason of deferral is that we want to hear their concern and we want to accommodate it as much as we can to the drawings. It's not that we're going to come to the committee with the same drawings. It's going to be changes to the variances. So I would request the committee to approve the deferral so we get a chance to address your concerns.
Okay, thank you for that. Members, do you have any questions of Ms. Zanjabadi? Okay, there being none, can I get a motion on the deferral request, please? Member Manning, please proceed.
Through you, Madam Chair, listened to the comments of both the applicant and the neighbors. I understand Mr. Lee's frustration, but I think it's important that we encourage both parties to speak. I think this is a legitimate request for deferral, and I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion from
Sine
Member
die.
Manning to approve the deferral sine die. Someone to second that? Seconded by Member Bartolo. All those in favor? Your deferral has been unanimously approved. Ms. Zanjabadi, sine die.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, members, moving on to item number 12. And item number 12 is number 176 Briar Hill Avenue. And this application is a proposal to construct a new 2-story dwelling with a deck, porch, and a walkout. We do have one additional speaker here, and we do have a Naushin Mozaffari as the agent. Naushin Mozaffari, are you there?
Morning. My name is Nushin Mozaffari from Hyphen Studio, representing my client, owner of 176 Briar Hill.
Okay, thank you so much. I note that there's 8 variances, forestry conditions, and 2 letters of objection, and someone to speak to this application. Why don't you give us a brief presentation, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. I think the application is very straightforward and very modest. The first variance is for the deck projection. Since the height of the deck is more than 1.2 from the ground, its projection is a variance. And in a conversation, in a discussion that I had with the neighbor's planner, we agreed to have a 6-foot height frosted glass privacy screen on the side of the deck to satisfy the privacy concerns. Number 2 is for the length, which is very similar to all other approved cases in the neighborhood, as the allowed length in this designation is very limited. Number 3 for the wall height is it's just about the east wall, and the length of the portion that is higher is 32% of the length. If it was 30% of the length, it wouldn't be a variance. So the rest of the house is complying with the allowed wall height, and only the front portion of the east wall is not. Variance number 4 about the first floor height, which is a very minor variance. And number 5, setback of the eaves on the west side. The projection of the eave is complying with the bylaw, but since the setback on this side is very limited, the distance from the eaves to the side property line is less than 30 centimeters. Number 6 and 7 are for the front yard landscaping and soft landscaping. And the reason is that the area of the front yard is very limited. We did our best to have the driveways configuration in a way that we be able to save the trees at the front, and also there is a right of way on the side which we are keeping. So as I said, the area of the front yard is very limited, and that's the reason for these 2 variances. And the last item for the FSI, the actual FSI for the main and second floor is 17%. And this 99% includes the basement area, because the level of the basement, according to the new definition, is considered as first floor. So the actual living space on the main and second floor is much less than this number that you see on the notice. I would be happy to answer any questions if members have any.
Okay, thank you. Members, do you have any questions of the agent? Member Kidd, go ahead.
Madam Chair, I noticed the part of the proposed building sits on the, you mentioned the right-of-way between yourself and the neighbor at 172 Briar Hill. You know, I can't support an application that proposes building on the right-of-way. Can you just let me know what's your reasons for doing that?
Yes, that was a mistake that the proposed building was encroaching by a couple inches into the right-of-way, and we modified that already, and I have sent the revised site plan and drawings to the committee. I think they have it on file under name of supporting material, and so we are honoring the right-of-way, and we are not building anything in that 4 feet of right-of-way.
That unfortunately, the plans we have in front of us today, the ones we're being asked to decide on, show the building on the right-of-way. Do you feel like you need time to defer this application so that you can present the revised plans for us?
As you see on this site plan that the committee is showing, that 4-foot setback on the side is the right-of-way, and we are honoring that. So the plans that are submitted in time is already reflecting that revision.
Okay, any other
Sorry, the
questions?
one on the screen I can't, the one on the screen I can't read. The only one I can read is the one that was part of the.
Here it says 4 foot, and there is another dimension in the revision clause at the rear of the building. If the committee can show that one as well. That's because the building was, the site setback on this side is not a variance, and our intention from the beginning was to honor the right of way. That
Okay. Thank you.
And it was a mistake which we corrected, and we sent the site plan to the committee like 10 days ago. And we are keeping the right of way intact.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, if not, let's move on to the next speaker. We've got a Harold and Lauren Stoveld. Harold or Lauren?
Good morning.
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello, very good. My name is Harold Stoveld. I live at 56 Oswego Court in Kitchener. I'm on the phone today to represent my mom, June Stoveld, who lives at and owns 172 Briar Hill. She's 94 years of age, and she didn't feel she could talk on this call.
Okay, thank you for that.
I am my mother.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm my mother's only child and her sole heir. So even though she's at advanced age and very good health, one day this house at 172 will become mine, and the business that is being carried on at this point in time will be carried on once my wife or once my mom has passed on. I'd like to turn the clock back just a bit. The original builder bought a plot of land along Briar Hill, and he subdivided the land into thirds, and he built 168, 172, and 176 Briar Hill. He had some great foresight in that he put 2 rather wide driveways between these 3 homes, with 172 being in the middle and being able to enjoy both of these wide driveways. Because the driveways were wide, he built 172 with 20 windows, 10 on each side of the house, to get the available light. And well, it brightens up our house, or my mother's house, very, very well. Any approval given for this project at 176 that increases the height, the narrowing of the driveway, or lengthening of the house will impair the quantity and quality of the light that does enter 172 at this point in time. 172 at the back of its lot has a triple car garage. The driveways between 168 and 172 and 172 and 176 are both used to access these garages. Last year in 2022, the Committee of Adjustment gave approval to demolish and rebuild 168 Briar Hill. The driveway between 168 and 172 has been barricaded for the past 5 months, so it cannot be used. The actual new width of the driveway that will be there once the new build is in place is unknown, and the completion date is unknown. We're not sure if that driveway is ever going to be able to be used for a car again. On the drawing provided for this project at 176, it is difficult to determine the actual driveway width once the new build is in place. Also, the drawing shows the area next to 176 to be a landscaped area. This driveway has been hard surface for well over 60 years. This oversight only heightens my concerns that this project wants to eliminate this area as a driveway. The loss of the other driveway has forced the driving over and damaging the back lawn at 172 in order to gain access to the third garage. My mom has provided safe garage parking for her tenants for decades. Driveway width and access must be retained in order to maintain this ability. If these conditions are not met, then her income will be impacted. I have a few requests. Bylaws were enacted for a variety of reasons. Any alteration to them needs strong reasoning.
I'll ask you to please summarize.
Sure. I request that no approvals to start work at 176 be allowed to take place until the driveway between 168 and 172 is reopened and proven to allow passage of cars. I thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to your decision. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stoveld, on behalf of your mom. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Stoveld at this time? Okay, there being none, let's get Ms. Mozaffari back on the line. Ms. Mozaffari.
Hi again.
Good day. Okay, so you've heard what Mr. Stoveld has indicated. You have 5 minutes to provide us a rebuttal to that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the opportunity. Actually, the original builder that the neighbor is mentioning, I don't think it's my client. My client has recently bought this property and they want to build it for themselves. And also on all these properties, there is only one shared driveway as registered right-of-way on just one side of each property. And I don't think the neighbor's property has any other right-of-way with the other neighbor. Even it has nothing to do with our application, and we have no control on that. On the side of the neighbor, as you see, we are the setback is not a variance. The height of the building is not a variance, and we are honoring the driveway and right-of-way. So the driveway width and access is maintained. And on the next page of this document, if the staff can show, we have shown the right-of-way intact and excluded from the calculation of the front yard areas. And one of the reasons for landscaping variances is the same portion. So we are not occupying the right-of-way, and our proposal shows that clearly. So I believe the access to the rear parking spots for the neighbor will maintain once the construction is done.
Okay, thank you for that. Members, do you have any questions of Ms. Mozaffari at this time? Okay, there being none, you've heard what the neighbor has to say. You've heard the rebuttal from Ms. Mozaffari. There's 8 variances, forestry conditions. There were 2 letters noted on file for objections. Can I get a motion on this? Okay, motion from Member Bartolo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've heard everything's been presented here. I'll note that most of the objections don't really have anything to do with the variances presented here. And neighbors' construction schedules and not maintaining driveways on other properties really have nothing to do with this application. And but to alleviate the concerns of the neighbor, there is no request for a side yard setback, which should affect the driveway. So I'm going to put forward a motion to approve this application subject to the conditions noted in the urban forestry memo attached.
Okay, motion from member Bartolo to approve this application subject to those conditions. Can I get a seconder for that? Seconded by member Kidd. All those in favor? Okay. And Ms. Manning is in favor as well. So this application has been unanimously approved with those conditions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, members, let's turn it over to the next item on the list, and that's item number 13. And this is 148 Hillhurst Avenue. And this is to construct a new 3-story detached dwelling. There's 4 variances and forestry conditions do apply. We do have a Councillor Cole letter who states that they want to ensure that it's appropriate for the neighborhood. There's 2 letters of objection, and we do have about 3 additional speakers for this item. So let's get Mr. Nicholas Ansarel. Mr. Ansarel, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, and if you can state your name and address for our records.
Yes, Nicholas Ansarel, 778 Queen Street East in Toronto.
Okay, and we do have a number of folks speaking to this application. Would you please give us a brief presentation on the merits of your application? Thank you.
Yeah, ma'am. Do you have the diagrams package that we submitted? If we'd be able to pull that up. Originally, we had 6 variances. We reduced them to 4, with the length being reduced from 23 meters to 17.45 meters, as we removed the thought of a car lift out front. We spoke with the planner, Paul Procopio, who originally had concerns about height, which we addressed with him. So now planning is satisfied. Speaking to the height, if we could pull up this first slide that we have there. The front, no, that was the right one. Thank you. Yes, perfect. Thank you. The front elevation can look intrusive in the 2D context. However, if you view the perspective below, you will see that only the 2 stories are really visible and stand about 7 meters, which is below the allowable 8.5 meter height of straight walls. The large diagram shows that the 3rd floor structure is substantially set back and will not even be visible from the sidewalk. As you see, it's set back, the structure is set back just over 5 meters, and our little overhang is set back 3.76 meters. If we could go to diagram 1, the one below, this shows previous approvals in the area, and we were very considerate not to create any precedents in the area. If you take a look, just for one example, 139 Hillhurst was approved for the 10 meter, as we are proposing, and 532 Briar Hill was approved for a 71% GFI. If we could go to diagram 2. As you see, the dashed line is the allowable buildable. We are proposing the red line. The green area is allowable buildable area that we are not encroaching into. We feel that since we are proposing outside of the city acceptable 12 by 20 roof slope, that this would be considered acceptable. We have bumped the 2nd floor out 46 centimeters, which has created our length variance. This is equivalent to what would be allowed for the soffit to overhang, as you can see on the green above. If the committee is concerned about approving the variance, we would accept it being removed. If we could go to diagram 3, this shows the 3rd floor. I want it to be clear there will be a guard at 3.76 meters back from the home's front, and this will be a non-accessible green roof area. So that's the, I guess, the peach area color, pink area there. There will be, so behind that, in the green area, that's the open space. So behind that will be a walk path and a seating area. We are asking for a 10.3 meter platform to ensure that we never run into a discrepancy of what is considered green spacing and planters versus a platform. Lastly, diagram 4, if you could go down one more. I just want to make the committee aware that we are not asking for a massive 2.5 story house. Rather, we are looking to creatively use the allowable space to be creative in our thinking. While the main floor subtracts the garage, we have a 646 square foot opening to below on the second floor, as you can see in purple. If we subtract that and we subtract the garage, this house is only 2,900, just over 2,900 square feet, which we feel is very acceptable in the neighborhood as well. Of that subtracted area into purple, that is, what we're counting, the 646 square feet. With the exception of 155 square feet of that, the city does count that towards our GFI. That is why we are up at 71%, but in usable, we are substantially below that. And speaking on the third floor, as you can see in yellow,
I'll ask you to please summarize.
Yep, I'm just about complete, madam. We're utilizing 741 feet of the 1,565 footprint on the third floor. In conclusion, we worked with planning to satisfactory and believe that we designed within the pillars of consideration.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ansaril. Members, do we have any questions of the agent at this time? There being none, then let's move to the first speaker. Noted, Mr. Harold Smith, who also wrote in a letter as well. Mr. Smith, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please state your name and address for the records, please.
Yes, good morning, members of the committee. I'm Harold Smith of 150 Hillhurst, immediately west of 148. I'm also a retired architect. And I want to point out that I looked at the site, the Committee of Adjustment site for 148 Hillhurst, and I counted at least 13 letters of objection, not 2. And I just wanted to make the committee aware of that.
Okay, we do have letters of objection on there. I'm not sure that I had counted 13, but regardless, can you please proceed with your comments? We are hearing from folks today. Yeah.
Certainly. Okay. Okay, I'll deal with this slide. The variances fail the minor variance test by creating undesirable impacts of privacy loss, sunlight loss, and undermining the immediate context area's prevailing physical character. This map shows the immediate context for this block of Hillhurst accepted by TLAB for 139, for the 139 Hillhurst appeal, in which they rejected a 10-meter sidewall height and an FSI of 0.77. Next slide, please. The only documentation issue I now have is a 0.71 FSI. Using the applicant's dimension plans and incorporating the bylaw area deductions, I determined a much higher FSI. It's just purely mathematics. Next slide, please. Okay, that I've already dealt with that. So let's go to slide 5, please. This is just a summary of Committee of Adjustment decisions for 139 Hillhurst and yes, and 127 Hillhurst, in which the Committee of Adjustment restricted the requested FSIs to 0.60. And it also illustrates the TLAB's refusal of a 10-meter sidewall height and 0.77 FSI for 139 Hillhurst. Next slide, please. Now, all existing 3-story homes in this immediate context have FSIs below 6 and sidewall heights below 7.5. And sidewall heights, it's the same basically as the main wall heights. They respect and reinforce this immediate context's prevailing physical character. And I'm not talking about aesthetics. I'm just talking about, sorry about that. They respect, it's not about aesthetics. It's about massing and other criteria. In the plan for official plan chapter 4 policy 5. This application's variances for FSI main wall height do not reinforce in respect of prevailing physical character of the immediate context, nor meet official plan intent. And the other thing I want to mention is the diagram that the agent showed you of a person standing on the sidewalk, looking at the house and not seeing the 3rd floor is incorrect. First of all, there's no sidewalk. There's a curb on the north side of Hillhurst. The sidewalk is on the south side. So everybody walking on the south side of Hillhurst on that sidewalk will see the 4th floor. They'll see it as they walk towards the house, as they look directly on the house, and as they, and people in the other direction will experience the same thing. So it's an incorrect diagram. Next slide, please. Slide. Okay, this is no longer applicable. I thought there was going to be, the wording of the zoning waiver and the notice led me to believe that there was a rear platform. Let's move on to slide 8, please.
I'll ask you to please summarize. Your time is
Yes.
almost up. Yeah.
Okay. Could I just look at, there's some other slides I must see, which I can't get to. Could you please show the shadow diagrams? No, this one here, this is the existing shadows cast at March 21st by the existing 148 Hillhurst. Could you please go to the next slide? Next slide, please. This shows the shadows cast by the new structure at March 21st at 9:18 a.m. and at September 21st. These are significant changes, and we bear the brunt of this massing, which is deployed in the back of the house, and it affects the sunlight, and it affects privacy because it also supports the
Mr.
facade.
Smith.
Windows facing
So
west
sorry,
towards
we
our
have to be
property.
fair to everyone, and so your time is up. But I will ask members, if there's any other questions that they have to ask of you. I think we got the synopsis of your presentation, and we do have it on file. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Smith at this time? Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith, and let's then move on. And just to let you know, Mr. Smith, we did find all of those letters of objection on the file. It was my mistake. Yes, there is 13 letters noted at least. Let's move on to Michael Barton. Mr. Barton, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. This is Michael Barton.
Yes, and if you can state your
Can you hear me?
name and address for our record, please.
Yes, sorry about that. I lost sound for a moment there. So my name is Michael Barton. It is 1489 Abbeywood Drive in Oakville. I'm a land use planner. I was retained on behalf of members of the community to provide preliminary planning opinion with respect to the application.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, so you have the my preliminary planning review on file, so I won't belabor the details, and I also not cover things that you've already heard. In my document, I had provided an executive summary, which I feel really covers the pertinent points. There's a lot of detail provided in the report, with respect to the individual tests and the considerations. But I think the executive summary really gets to the point. So the key elements that I had provided in that document related to, first of all, the subject property, as we've noted, has a two-story single detached dwelling. Today, that's similar in character, when I look at elements, just the height, the length, the depth, but also that appearance of the building and that original built form character that we see in the neighborhood. And it's also consistent with what we see next door at 142 and 150 Hillhurst. Based on the data that the city has on file for the original dwellings in the neighborhood here, we were seeing an FSI of approximately 0.35 on this property with 143 square meters of floor area. Just because the property hasn't been modified since the time that the city did detailed density calculations. And again, when we look at the neighboring properties as well. So the property to the west, we see there that it has an area of about 145 square meters or an FSI of 0.36. So practically the same as the existing dwelling on this property. The property that's to the east, the dwelling is similar in character and size, even though the lot is 3 meters wider. So it's important to keep that in mind because we're talking about FSI here, which directly speaks to, is directly related to the lot area. So that we see a 0.32 on that property, even though the dwelling is slightly larger at 180 meters squared. So an element that the applicant had showed you was their area map of properties that sit within that, what I would call the broader context in terms of the official plan neighborhood designations. When I looked at this area, I had established a broader neighborhood context, but I had also looked at the immediate context, which includes 24 properties on the north side of Hillhurst and 26 on the south side. And in my opinion, the immediate context is significantly different from that broader context in terms of a number of elements, including the zoning, the prevailing dwelling scale, lot size, and configuration. So I consider the immediate context to be more relevant. In my opinion, what we see in the immediate context are lots of similar depth and orientation characteristics. There's relative harmony among the front and rear yard setbacks. We see predominantly two-story single detached dwellings with a pitched roof design that's consistent with the original character of the neighborhood. The majority of the properties here haven't seen any form of minor variance approval to the existing performance standards. So the existing FSI values in this neighborhood that were on file with the city range from 0.21 to 0.58. And I had provided that document in an appendix to my report. Then we also have the decision from 139 Hillhurst, which was in August of 2020, that it approved certain variances, but it did reject the FSI and the sidewall height variances were requested. So in that decision, it confirmed that the immediate context was of greater relevance compared to the broader context, that the sidewall height of 10 meters does not exist anywhere in the neighborhood of substantial numbers, that the sidewall height's not desirable in this magnitude, and then it also found that the most frequently occurring FSI in both the broader and immediate context was 0.6 or below. So again, it's just, because of the limited number of applications in the immediate context, this does provide us with a recent test of the existing built form character in the neighborhood. So I had provided my opinion that my focus was on the variances related to sidewall and main wall height and FSI. So my opinion was that the variances do not maintain the general purpose and intent of the official plan, that they do not respect and reinforce the prevailing character in terms of prevailing height, massing, scale, and density. And with respect to the zoning bylaw as well, that the proposal is, while it's permitted built form type, the modifications to the height and the density will not be compatible with the physical character of the neighborhood. It was my opinion that variances are not minor. Again, the prevailing character of the neighborhood will not be maintained, will not result in harmonious land use and form. The sidewall height and floor space index do not reflect what we see in the immediate context in particular. And then again, not only is this doubling that
Please
performance standard for
summarize.
density, but
I'll ask you to please
yes,
summarize.
it's doubling that. It's significantly beyond what has been recently tested in the neighborhood. So for those reasons, but it was my opinion that the floor tests were not met through this application, particularly the FSI and the height variance requested.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Barton? There being none, let's move on to the last speaker noted, and that's a John Keller. Mr. Keller, are you there?
I am indeed. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Please state your name and address for our records.
Terrific. I'm John Kelleher at 154 Hillhurst, just a few houses down from the applicant's proposal.
Okay, please proceed with your comments.
Well, thank you so much. First of all, I've never done this before, so it's fun to meet some of my fellow citizens. Listen, I'm going to speak very, very briefly in support of the applicant at 148 to basically support what they'd like to do. And I have 4 quick reasons I just like to state, and really thanks for your time. My first is that, you know, I think when someone wants to spend millions of dollars to enhance our neighborhood, I think it's very important to remember this creates jobs, it creates prosperity, it creates vibrancy in the neighborhood, and it just seems like sometimes we lose the plot on that. And so I just want to state that as my first reason. It creates enormous common good for all, including me and all my neighbors. Second point, I've spoken to many of my neighbors who are enormously supportive of this. They didn't want to come, sadly, to the committee. So I just want to remind folks that I do think it's sort of a tale of people who come to these, sadly. And I do believe the majority of people support development and homeowners being able to do what they want to do. My third point is that I have looked at the variances carefully. I'm not an architect, but I have done so to the fullest of my abilities. And they do look very minimal to me, very minimal to me. And my fourth and last reason is that I really think this argument that something is, quote, not appropriate for the neighborhood is terribly dangerous and pernicious. I think it amounts to personal preferences being used to stop development. And I think it's really important that we actually have a diversity of opinion about what kind of structures are interesting in a neighborhood. And that's what really creates vibrancy and you know, growth and interest in the neighborhood. So those are my reasons. I strongly support what these folks are trying to do and welcome them to the neighborhood and thank them for their investment.
Okay, thank you so much for that, sir. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Keller? All right, there being none, let's invite the agent back on with us, and that's Mr. Ansarel. Can you come back?
Aye.
And I note that you do have one supporter there, but there are a couple of folks in the beginning who have stated some concerns. You have 5 minutes to rebut. Thank you. Go ahead.
All right. Well, there are always, you know, with all due respect for everybody that spoke, you know, there are often neighbors who oppose, you know, in many instances, and get the neighborhood association on board. You know, but it's usually just a handful of them that are actually opposing. You know, in many, you know, there's usually many that are indifferent, and it is rare for somebody like Mr. Keller, who came on and actually spoke in favor of this, that happens. But I don't actually, you know, in a neighborhood where there's dozens, you know, hundreds of homes, you know, to say a small handful is opposing, or I need not say more on that part. In speaking to the gentleman who was talking about the calculation of the floor plans, we did have plans in originally, and they did change out. So it is a possibility that he calculated on the old plans. What I would like to also mention on that, regardless, whatever we are approved for, that is what we are approved for. We can't do anything about that anyways. So if you approve us for the 71% today, that's what we get from it. So I would like to speak to the gentleman's comment about shadow. While I cannot speak to the accuracy of them, I'm sure there is merit to what he's saying. But what I want the committee to be aware of is that we are building within the allowable shell. If you recall again on my second diagram, of what's the allowable buildable area for like the shell for that home, we are building within what is allowed. Right there, yes, diagram 2. Thank you so much for bringing that up. We are building within that allowable shell. So to come and mention this as a variance, and using the shadow as a way to avoid a variance that wouldn't impact himself, does not impact his home one bit more than if we built within the allowable shell, I think is a little bit unfair. And the last point I'd like to just comment is with all respect to the planner that spoke, he was hired to speak against the property. And, we can come up, the old saying, do you like apples, do you like oranges? And, we can make an argument for cases pro and cases against as well. I would just again like to reiterate that we did speak with Paul Procopio and worked with him who's the city planner, and we walked away with an application that does not have city planning opposing us. And I think that's the one that we're proud of. That's why we presented, and I hope that the committee will take that one into consideration. And the last point I'd like to make is the comment about massing, that we don't respect the massing. And with this diagram up, I would lastly like to again say we very much do respect the massing because we are within what is the allowable massing for this site. If we slope that to 8.5 meter height, if we have our walls come up to, our front and rear walls come up to the 8.5 meter height and then slope those back, our side walls can be straight all the way up. And that's, and that would be allowable. So we are much within the allowable, much outside of what the allowable massing is. We are bringing a green roof to the area too, which I know is a big thing in the city, bringing green spaces back in. And with that, I thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you for that. Members, do you have any questions of the agent here today? Okay, there being none, we've heard from the neighbors. We're seeing here that I'm just pulling this up right now. For variances, there are, specific conditions, forestry conditions apply. There's a number of letters of opposition, and then a letter from the councillor asking that it be appropriate for the neighborhood. You've heard some voices of support as well. Can I get a motion on this application? If folks need a little time to discuss, or if you would like to open it up for any internal discussion, Member Attarodi, please proceed.
Yes, to you, Madam Chair. I was listening to neighbors and the applicant, and what we have in front of us is a modified variance. We have only 4 variances, and apart from FSA, which we have an explanation for it, all the combination of the variants look minor to me, and I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application subjected to urban forestry.
Okay, motion from Member Attarodi to approve with forestry. All those in favor? Okay, unanimously approved with those conditions.
Thank you.
Mr. Ansel, thank you. Okay, members, let's turn it over now to number 1, Purling Place. This has only 1 speaker. There may be some revisions. I know that there's 8 variances, and the staff report is asking for variances number 3, 4, and 5 to be eliminated. There's 1 letter of objection, and forestry does apply. Let's bring out Mr. Bronskill. Mr. Bronskill, are you there?
Sorry, Madam Chair, there was a quick hiccup there. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We're having some technical difficulties today, but go ahead.
I think in fairness, it was just me coming off mute. Sorry.
All right. So please state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, it's David Bronskill here on behalf of the applicant agent. Our office address is 333 Bay Street, Suite 3400, Toronto, Ontario. And Madam Chair, you are correct. There are some revisions I should note at the outset. Those are detailed in both the staff report from city planning staff and also on the first page of the presentation we provided. The architects actually provided, I should say. There are 5 variances for the committee to construct a new dwelling. The revisions would delete variances 3, 4, and 5, which are largely related to front yard landscaping. But the variance 4, which was also requested from staff to be removed, was a rear yard setback related to the ancillary building. That variance should be removed as well. And the presentation will that ancillary building now meets the rear yard setback requirement.
Okay, so variances number 3, 4, and 5 have been removed as per the staff report?
Please.
Right. Any other changes?
No.
Okay.
No, Madam Chair.
So with that, there is only 2 variances. I note forestry, sorry, not 2. Let's just see here how many there's just 2 that's noted. Members, there's no one else to speak to this application. Do we need a presentation? Okay, I see no hands going up. I'm just giving a little delay because I know there's a little bit of feedback delay from the camera to us here in council chambers. There being none, Mr. Bronskill, do you have anything that you'd like to share with the members before they take this into committee for decision making?
I will be very brief, Madam Chair. I would note the front yard setback relates only to a portion of the building. Some of the buildings, in fact, behind the minimum front yard setback. Committee can see that on the red line on page 3 of the materials provided. We also provided a summary of some of the coverage variances that are in the area. I would just note for the committee that the house itself is 29.47%. Total coverage, as the committee well knows, it would include the cabana at the rear, which has 3.12%. That gets us to the total of 32.59 being sought, but the house itself is at 29.47. And finally, we did read the letter from the neighbor to the rear expressing some concerns about the trees that are on their site. I would just say 3 things. One, our client has already moved the pool further away from their trees to try and meet the tree protection zones. Number 2, our client is very aware of the value of these trees to their neighbors. If further work needs to be done to ensure that those tree protection zones are being appropriately protected, there is an urban forestry condition, and obviously those are trees that are the property of our neighbors, and we will not be able to remove them or injure them without their permission. So that is something that we would work through. But the last thing, Madam Chair, I would just note is it relates to the proposed pool and not actually to any of the remaining 2 variances that are before the committee. But I just wanted to assure the committee that we are aware of those concerns. We've already attempted through our client to address them, but we'll continue to work with the neighbors to ensure that those trees, which we understand are meaningful for them, are appropriately protected through the construction process.
Okay, that's very good to note. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Bronskill? There being none, can we get a motion, please? Member Attarodi.
Yes, to you, Madam Chair. I convinced that this is a very minor. My concern was regarding the lot coverage, which I get an explanation that the house is 29.7% only, and that's the total with cabana and others. And also the front yard setback is just only for portion. So I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with the following changes. that variance number 3, variance number 4 and 5 have been eliminated, and also subjected to urban forestry.
Okay, thank you. Member Atarodi with a motion to approve this application subject to those changes as well as to forestry. Can I get someone to seconded by Member Manning? All those in favor? Unanimously approved with those conditions. Thank you, Mr. Bronskill. Members, let's move on to item number 15, which is 345 Briar Hill Avenue. This is 5 variances. There are about 4 letters of objection on file, but we do have a number of speakers that are noted here. So why don't we get the agent out, and that is Mr. Babak Gassami. Mr. Babak Gassami, are you there?
Madam Chair, Babak has been unmuted.
Babak Gassami, can you come online, please? Perhaps if there is an agent for this item, perhaps if you can get in touch with Mr. Irvin Bridgeraj or Giovanna Rizzio. What we'll do is let's stand this down for a moment and let's move on to item number 16, members. And this is number 15, Faith Avenue. And we've got a Parmir Rafiq on the line. Parmir Rafiq, are you there?
Yeah, members, how's everybody doing today?
We're doing good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, so if you can state your name and address for our records, please.
My name is Pamir Rafiq, and the address is 1435 Cornwall Road, Unit D2 in Oakville.
All right. Mr. Rafiq, this is a simple application. It seems that there's 4 variances. There's no one else to speak to it, and it's forestry applies. Members, do we require a presentation here today for this application? None noted. So, Mr. Rafiq, is there anything you'd like to tell committee members before they go into decision making? They don't require a presentation, but if there's anything else that you'd like to share?
If presentation is not required, I'll keep it very quick. I'm just gonna point out a couple of things. So our variances, obviously they're related to the height. The lot coverage is just 1.89%, so it's less than 2%. And we made sure to maintain the height as per the zoning bylaw requirements, as well as the side yard setback. So in terms of massing from the street, it will not extend beyond what's already the evolving character of the neighborhood. There's a list of example projects in the exact street that have houses very similar in character. And then the only other thing I wanted to say is that the building length and the depth might seem, actually this only relates to the building length. It may seem a little bit more extensive than it really is because of that bay window. So the measurement is taken from that bay window, which is really just a small projection. And if you were to look at the front face of the house, the rear face of the house, the number would be about 2 feet less than the original. And then about the front, there's one other quick point I wanted to make. The front yard setback, we're asking for a bit of a variance there, but I'd like to point out that the street at the front is angled. So from the point where the measurement is taken, we're angling away from the house, which means that it feels a lot bigger than, it feels a little bit bigger than really the measurement reflects. So that's really it.
Oh, okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Rafiq? Okay, there being none, can we get a motion on this application? Member Manning, please proceed.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve this application. I think all of these variances are minor and just make it subject to the conditions of forestry.
Okay, Member Manning with a motion to approve this application subject to forestry. Can I get someone to second that? seconded by Member Tarodi. All those in favor? Mr. Rafiq, your application has been unanimously approved, subject to forestry. Thank you.
Amazing. Good day. Thank you.
All right. We're set to go for item number 15 again. Members, if we can go one back. Can I have a Mr. Babak Jassami on the line? Mr. Babak Gassami, are you there?
Madam Chair, he's been unmuted.
Mr. Gassami, we want to hear your voice. Okay, do you want to put him on speakerphone? We're just getting him on speakerphone because this is quite a large application. We've got a number of folks wanting to speak. We have 2, 4, 6, 7 speakers, members. So let's see what we could do. Okay, what I'm going to do is while Mr. Bridgeraj is trying to locate him again, let's move back on to the last item, item number 17, which is 56 Aldershot Crescent. We've got Lauren Rose as the agent there. We do have one other speaker. Mr. Rose, are you there?
I'm here, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Rose, we've got an item here with 14 variances. There is a staff report of April 4th where they have one condition attached. There is a letter of objection, and I'm presuming that's the person speaking here today. Why don't you give us a brief presentation on your application, and then we'll hear from the speaker.
Sure. If you need my address, it's Lauren Rose, 388 Spadina Road. If staff can put up the site plan, because a lot of the variances have to do with the fact that this is a corner lot. It's a proposed 2-story dwelling on a corner lot. Nope, wrong one. Number 17. Yeah. So in particular, that corner, so this was sort of strange for me. So because it's not a curved corner or whatever, the front setback is up to half of the angled corner lot line. So our front setback becomes very small at the corner. It's 1.67. Actually, no, it's 4.94 because you're taking half of that corner area to the front wall of the house. So I'll take you through the variances and just sort of describe number 1, which the house lines up nicely with the house to the next door. It's actually further back from the front, what I would call the front lot line, than the existing house. But we do need that 4.94 setback to the middle of that diagonal line. Variance 2, on a corner lot, vehicular access is off the flanking street. In this case, we're wanting it off the frontage, but in looking at the area, the identical corner lot on the house behind us, I point out, also has the garage off the front side, not the flanking side, and planning has no issue with that. In terms of the length of the dwelling, you're required to be 17 meters. In this case, we are 16.99 meters in length for the main walls of the building, plus 1.98 meter one-story projection. And the rest is the excavated terrace. If it weren't excavated, it would not count in length or coverage. Permitted maximum height, we're 0.4 meters over the required 10 meters, or the permitted 10 meters. Planning has no objection. Variance number 5 has to do with the depth, where you're allowed 19 meters, but it's the same answer. We have 16.99 meters for the house, then 1.9 meters for the one-story projection, and then the terrace takes you to the 22.3 meters. Variance 6 has to do with the width of the stairs. The stairs are as wide as the stoop. It's architecturally attractive, and no one usually has any problems with this. Number 7 has to do with the architectural feature encroaching into a front yard. It's again due to the way frontage is taken on this lot in the corner. Number 8, the required west side yard setback for an architectural feature. It's projecting another foot because of the corner as well. And number 9 is the roof projection into the setback. That's because of the corner as well. There's nothing unique about the projection of these eaves. For number 10, lot coverage. We're asking for 45.3, but that's because the rear terrace is excavated. We're only asking for 37.5% for the house proper. And planning has no objection to that. It is a large number, but if you were to approve it, you should maybe keep that 7% is for the rear outdoor storage under the terrace. Required rear yard setback is also, because the rear porch is excavated, is 8.36, but to the house it's 11.24. Required side yard setback, 1.67 on the east side. Very similar on both cases, but the side yard setbacks are very similar to what is presently there. And you will note that the house next to us on the west side has 1.2 meter side yard setback. We're asking for 1.22. Those are the variances. I can answer any questions you have. It's a little complicated because of this corner lot situation.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Rose. Members, do you have any question of the agent today? There being none, let's then move on to the first speaker noted on here. It's only one speaker, Mr. John Flores. Mr. Flores, are you there?
Mr. I live across at
yes.
57 Crescent.
Okay, if you can just state your name and address for our records, please.
Of course. My name is John Flores. I live across the street at 57 Aldershot Crescent.
Thank you. And can you share your thoughts on this application today?
Thank you. Yes, in your deliberations, I'd like you to consider just 3 issues. The first, zoning to accompany the original plan of subdivision specified the location of the driveway for 56 Aldershot, which, as Mr. Rose indicated, is a corner lot. Reconfiguring vehicular access by a compass quadrant from that originally laid out in the plan of subdivision represents a change to the plan of subdivision, and this is not a minor variance. This leads to the second issue, which is one of safety. The present application should be accompanied by a traffic study to ensure that the proposed driveway reconfiguration, plus the variances in the dwelling's footprint, are safe for pedestrians, drivers, and cyclists. If you look at the plan of the street, you will see that the present driveway facing east onto Aldershot is well within the line of sight of traffic traveling southward. However, if the driveway is reconfigured to face south, the line of sight of drivers turning the bend westward will be foreshortened and their stopping distance diminished, posing a potential risk of collision. Such risk will be amplified by any variance that projects the southwest corner of the proposed dwelling towards the roadway. The argument that the adjacent corner lot facing north has been accepted is specious because there is a long line of sight of traffic approaching that driveway from that portion of Aldershot Crescent. Importantly, there is no sidewalk on either side of Aldershot Crescent. The further this proposed home projects south and east to the corner, the less time the pedestrians walking eastward have to avoid oncoming traffic rounding the bend, and the less time those driving south will have to see and avoid residents walking on the left-hand side of the road with children or with dogs. The third issue is neighborhood character. If the agent's calculations are correct, the proposed increase in lot coverage by 29% above the maximum permitted is anomalous for Aldershot Crescent. There is no variance in lot coverage of similar magnitude on Aldershot Crescent. To refer to variances on adjacent through streets such as Lord Seaton, Fairmeadow, or Yorkminster would be disingenuous because these do not pertain to Aldershot Crescent. Aldershot Crescent is not a through street. It is an enclave with only one road of entry and exit. This makes it a very popular street for residents to walk with their children. To respect the character of this enclave, when we constructed our home across the street, we requested no variances and built a home smaller than the maximum lot coverage allowed. With all due respect, an anomaly of this magnitude, a 29% increase above maximum, should not be judged a minor variance. We would respectfully submit that any new dwellings on Aldershot Crescent also respect zoning bylaws and are constructed with dimensions appropriate to and commensurate with the existing neighborhood enclave. In sum, please give weight in your deliberations to neighborhood safety, particularly for parents walking with children, character, and the zoning that accompanied this original plan of subdivision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Flores. Members, do you have any questions of the agent? I mean, the speaker. No, none noted. So, Mr. Rose, if we can bring him back on. Mr. Rose, you've heard what Mr. Flores has said. You have 5 minutes to rebut.
Yes, I don't think that the plan of subdivision has precedence here. All subdivisions change over time. Neighborhoods are not meant to be frozen in time and are expected to change. There is a driveway for the home right next to our proposed driveway. As the speaker mentioned, this is not a through street. There is not a lot of vehicular traffic. I don't think that anybody is really at danger here either way. His comment about the house right behind us, if staff want to put up the area map, that might show, I guess that's on the notice of hearing. There you go. So the house directly behind our house has the exact same condition, but the speaker said that was very different. I'm not quite sure how that's different in any way. While I respect his opinion that it's a nice area to walk and there are no sidewalks, I think, you know, any house is equally as dangerous to back out of and hit somebody, I suppose. I don't see why this would have any more implication to anyone. And it's frankly not a variance to back up a driveway where there's no sidewalks or anything like that. However, it is a variance for corner lots. I often ask for this kind of variance on a corner lot. And I don't have any better answer other than there is a big tree in the backyard, and people like to have their backyards for privacy, not for parking. It would take a big chunk of your backyard off, and I'd want to push the house forward to the street. The adjacent neighbors are not objecting, and the planning department is not objecting, and transportation is not objecting to this because it is not a heavily trafficked street. I can answer any other questions that you have.
Okay, thank you. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Rose at this time? Okay, there being none, you've heard what the neighbor has had to say. You've heard the rebuttal from Mr. Rose. 14 variances. The staff report has one condition attached, and there was one letter of objection. Can I get a motion on this application, please? Member Manning, please proceed.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve this application. I accept the applicant's arguments and in regards to the excavated terrace contributing to a lot of these variances. And I think they meet the 4 tests. Also, planning and transportation has no objection. Just one note that it be developed in accordance with the site plan drawings.
Okay, so Member Manning with a motion to approve, subject to the one condition of the staff report. All those in favor, is there a seconder for this? Seconded by Member Attarodi.
Excuse me,
favor?
Madam Chair.
Sorry.
If I could just interrupt for a second.
Yes.
I noticed there were some conditions attached to the transportation report. Did you want to include those as well, Ms. Manning?
Yes, thank you for the friendly amendment.
one moment, please. I'm just checking on something here. We're just going to pull up that transportation just in case, because it did come in late for members to see. And as you can see, it was the April 4th. I'm sorry I did not mention it because I did not pull that in with my package. But in terms of the comments, if we can scroll down, we will see that there's just some conditions attached and conclusions to that. Okay. So, Member Manning, you've modified your motion to also include this transportation conditions. Someone to second it, please. Seconded by Member Bartolo. All those in favor? Okay, everyone approves of this application with those conditions. Thank you so much. Members, if we could now go down to the last item that we've been waiting to do, that's item number 15, before we can break for lunch. Item number 15, again, Mr. Babak Jassami, are you there?
Hello, everyone. Babak Jassami here.
Okay, and this is 345 Briar Hill Avenue. There's 5 variances and 4 letters of objection. There's quite a number of speakers. Mr. Babak, can you give us a brief presentation of your application, and then we'll move on to hearing from the area residents. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry, I have to apologize for the technical issue with WebEx, and I'd like to thank the committee staff for resolving the issue. I'm now presenting this project by calling in. I'm watching the presentation on YouTube, so I see there's a 30-second gap between what's been presented. I'm trying to make it work. I would like to begin by making an amendment to our proposed variances as a result of addressing some of the concerns raised by our neighbors. Variance number 1, we would like to remove the variance for the west side setback to the rear deck. The west side setback to the front deck or porch will remain. Variance number 3, we would like to reduce our proposed building length from 17.9 meters to 17.6 meters.
So, sorry, so variance number 1 is, let me just repeat this. So variance number 1 is removed. Variance number 3.
We're just removing the, from variance number 1, we are only removing the west side setback to the rear deck. The west side setback to the front deck will remain.
Okay, so you're removing variance number 1, the west side setback. Hang on,
To
I'm
the
just
rear
looking
deck
at. Just give me one moment because I want to make sure that I'm saying this correct. If I'm getting confused, so will the members.
No problem.
Okay, so we're seeing the west side setback. So it is the proposed west side setback to the rear deck is what you're removing.
Yes.
From variance number 1. Okay, proceed.
Yes.
Okay.
Variance number 3, we would like to reduce our proposed building length from 17.9 meters to 17.6 meters.
So number 3 goes to 17.6 meters, yes?
Correct. And variance number 4, we would like to reduce our proposed FSI from 0.69 to 0.68.
So 0.68 meters. Okay. Sorry, 0.68 times. That's number 4. No other changes?
No other changes.
All right. Go ahead.
The application before you is a proposal to build a 2-story new contemporary dwelling with an integral garage. If you can pull up the presentation package that we submitted, if you refer to page 2 of our presentation, you can see that our property is located on the south side of Briar Hill, where it has a different zoning bylaw compared to the north side. The south side, where our property is located, has a maximum permitted FSI of 0.06. However, on the north side, the maximum permitted FSI is 0.035. 0.35. I think this made a confusion for the community, as when you read the objection letters from some of the neighbors who registered today, they think that we are asking to double the FSI from 0.35 to 0.68. However, that's not the case. If you refer to page 3 of the presentation, and if you we put the zoning bylaw exception 1401, we actually placed the actual wording of the zoning bylaw, which says that the bylaw allows us to increase our FSI from 0.6 to 0.69 by doing an addition in the back, and it allows us to maintain an existing setback of 16 centimeter, which is the setback of the existing house to the property line for the entire length of the addition. Now, if you look at our highlighted site plan, you can see the footprint of the existing house shown in red, dashed line. And I have to mention that there's an easement to the east side of the property, which forces us to have a setback of 1.07 meters, where only a setback of 0.9 is required. And now, if you refer to the site plan, you see that the red shaded area shows the as-of-right footprint of what we could build by doing an addition in the back, which means from the dash line in the front, which shows the front wall of the existing house, we could build 17 meters and go back into the property. I need to mention that this was prepared before we actually saw the objection letters from the neighbors. After talking to the neighbors, we decided to reduce our building length and put the rear wall where we could place our rear wall as of right if you were to doing an addition. Now, if you look at the site plan again, you see that our proposed new development only projects beyond what's permitted from the front side only, which that does not impact anyone as this is a south lot, and the sunlight actually directs from south. And if you refer to our last slide, you can see that we are showing that there are precedents in the immediate context, broader context of this subject property. There are precedents for a maximum permitted length and FSI, which we're applying for. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for that. Members, do you have any questions of the agent, Mr. Kasami, right now? If not, let's move on then to the first speaker that's noted, Mr. Ali Afshar.
Sorry.
Yes, sorry, Mr. Kidd, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry, it just wasn't clear on the explanation for around the SFI. Could you just go over that again for me, please?
No problem. So if you refer to our page 2 of our presentation, so our zoning bylaw allows to increase the existing required FSI of 0.06 to 0.069 if we were to do an addition on this lot. And that means if you wanted to do an addition, we wouldn't even need to be here today at the committee, or we could build up to 0.069 FSI without triggering any variance. But we don't think that necessarily is an appropriate proposal for this lot because of how tight the existing building is to the property line. The existing setback is only 16 centimeters, and we would like to improve that setback to 60 centimeters. I hope you could explain the FSI.
Thank you.
Any other questions from members? Okay, let's move it along then to, again, the next speaker, Ali Afshar. Mr. Afshar, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you please state your name and address for our records, please?
Well, this is Ali Afshar. I'm the structural engineering of the project, actually. My address is 102 Baywood Court, Thornhill, Ontario.
Okay, so you're the engineer. Do you need to speak, or was that just an error?
I just wanted to explain to you that about that FSI, the permitted FSI is 0.6 actually, but in the letter sent to the neighbors, they assume that it's 0.35, but it's actually 0.6 for both floors. 2 floors together would be 0.6, and now we are just moving to 0.68, which is permitted as an exception. Thank you.
Okay. Members, do you have any questions of the engineer? Okay, there being none, thank you, Mr. Afshar. Let's move on then to Sally and Richard Blackman. Sally and Richard Blackman, yes? Please state your name and address.
This is Sally Blackman. I live at 347 Briar Hill, next door to 345 west of it. My two concerns are privacy and sunlight. The privacy component is that the deck is going to be high, according to what I read from the plans, and that someone on their deck could look in our windows and over our deck. I think also the sunlight will be cut off to our family room and the 2 upper bedrooms, one of which is my painting studio. So that affects me very, personally, that I don't have less light to paint and less light, especially in winter, that was the sunniest room in the house, and it sounds like it will not be that again. I would like the proposed house to respect all the bylaws with no variances permitted, because I just think it's just a tall, long, and wide house. Even though they have made some adjustments, I'm actually unclear about how that will actually affect our house. So I myself feels like we should respect the bylaws. My husband also has some comments. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Richard Blackman.
Yeah, I'm Richard Blackman, and I live at 347 Briar Hill, immediately west of the proposed changes. I also have issues with privacy, especially from the rear deck. Anyone standing on that deck will be able to look directly back into our back room of the house. Now, if the builder says, oh, well, we'll just build a privacy fence, that restricts the light into our yard even more. So there's a problem there. I understand that the proposed length of the house has gone from 8 feet over to less than that. If you look at the photos that I sent in from my back room. According to the original proposed length of the house, you can see where I've blacked out my windows. That would be the wall that I would be looking at. If the house is 3 feet shorter than that, that's alleviated to some extent. The other point I wanted to make is that the house really doesn't conform to the prevailing character or context of the local area, both in mass, scale, and density. We do live in a community, and progress needs to be made, and new houses need to be built. But a new modern house does not need to be completely out of context and should respect the local neighborhood. People live here for a reason. They enjoy the neighborhood, they like the neighborhood, and when you put in a house of this size and this shape, it really does change things. I don't have any other concerns if the house, the length of the house has been shortened by almost 3 feet. If that's a real change, then I will leave my other comments stand. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Members, do you have any questions of Ms. Sally or Mr. Richard Blackman? Okay, there being none, let's move on to the next speaker, Mr. Ian Covert. Mr. Covert, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, if you can state your name and address for us, please.
Yeah, hello, my name is Ian Covert. I live at 341 Briar Hill, so I'm the neighbor on the other side. I share a mutual drive with 345, about 6 feet between the two homes. I would echo a lot of Sally and Richard's concerns. Our major opposition is to points 3 and 4. I did know that point 6 was the allowable, but even allowing for that up from 0.35, they're still going to a 13% variance over the current allowable. And this is not an addition, it is a new build. So I don't think the addition thing really holds water. We have many of the same concerns, mainly around sunlight and privacy. Again, this house goes out quite a bit further than we are at now. The elevated back deck will look directly into our main floor, and there's been no accommodations to my knowledge made for any of that. So that would be one of our major concerns. And just overall, we think this house is excessive. It's quite a bit larger than almost all of the homes in the immediate area. And we believe it's important to stick to the established bylaws, and we would stand by that and ask the committee respects the established bylaws on length of house and floor space index. I get they've made some very minor concessions here, but still they are quite minor compared to what the current bylaw states.
Okay, thank you so much for that, sir. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Covert? Okay, there being none, let's move on to the next speaker, Mr. Scott Morrison. Mr. Morrison, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please state your name and address for our records.
Okay, thank you very much. I lost you for a bit there. Madam Chair, members, good afternoon. I'm Scott Morrison. I live with my family at 352 Briar Hill, which is across the street, and I guess east about 4 houses.
Okay. If you can continue and try not to repeat the points that may have already been made, and let us know what other new additional points you have on this application.
Yeah. Well, obviously, yeah, there is an echo here. And of course, it's because it's the same issues. Having said that, I'd like to put it in the context of massing. And although there was a mistake in the material sent out by the committee that noted that it was a 0.35, I think all of us know it's a 0.60, and we're sorry that happened. But again, there's a number of other errors on sheets that we were sent that make it all a little confusing. So please bear with us and understand we are not professionals. Okay, we're human beings who are trying to be citizens. Anyways, my house is also 100 years old, 97, and we're not sure whether we want to renovate or whether we want to build or just sell. But one of the things that we do take into account when we do that is the context in which we're living and our neighbors. And the mass of this new build with the integral garage at the first floor and the first floor essentially at 9 feet, it basically creates all the problems. It creates all the privacy issues. It creates all the massing issues. And so that's my aside. I know you guys can't speak to that. This is not a variance. It's something that people are allowed to do. But the impact is on all the other variances, and they're asking for more here. So if we look at the maximum allowable height, I just discovered that that was changed to 10 meters in December. Who knew that? But anyways, they've pushed it right to that maximum amount. Variance 3 more feet on the depth. Now I know that the representative for the owners just gave back 1/3 of that 3 feet. But why can't they just keep going and give back 3 feet? I don't understand. Again, it's a new build. The FSI, that would bring the FSI down to 0.66 anyways, rather than the 0.68 that the agent just talked to. As for the west side setback at 0.61, there was a lot of discussion about if you were just to put an addition on an existing house, how it's grandfathered in from a 1958 bylaw that says that you can have it at I thought it was 0.68. I didn't think it was 0.69, but anyways, 0.67, 8 or 9. But this is a new build. This is not a renovation on an existing home. Okay, so we must please remember that. The front entrance variants, those were all put in as these tall houses were starting to happen, and there was a shock, like, oh my God, look at what it's doing. It's, you know, lifting people up, it's massing and so forth. So the bylaw was put in the 2013 to, I thought, bring that down, and that's why they made the front entrance. So again, the front entrance, I see no reason for the front entrance being a variance, which is number 2. And similarly, again, if they just did something like so many other people on our street have done, either not having a garage or having the garage at first floor and having the whole house at grade, or, you know, having the whole first floor with the room above the garage in that way. But anyways, my point is that all of these variances have led to a huge mass, a mass that is 2.5 times the size of the existing building and certainly 50% larger than the adjacent buildings. I can't believe that the zoning bylaws originally envisioned this sort of a massive structure. And again, the back deck, it was nice of them to offer up a foot back and to pull back that variance. That was great. That's sensible. But again, that whole back deck leads to all of these issues for the immediate neighbors, the sightline issues, the light issues, and the privacy issues. I won't speak to those because the neighbors have already spoken to those. I'm adjacent to a house that is similar to that, but it's only 0.54. It's not nearly as deep. It's only 44 feet deep. I'm on the other side. We have different zoning. But we had to go to OMB, and we wanted OMB holding that back because it was recognized that the mass was so great. The privacy issue, again, both of them talked to looking down into their first floors and onto their decks. That's a huge issue. But actually, if you were to propel yourself, your feet up 9 feet, and then look in your head, being a 6-foot person, 15 feet, you're looking inversely at the base of the second floor windows also. So there is a huge issue. And then, of course, if you put up privacy screens, it creates other problems, okay? So the back deck is, again, quite an issue, even though it's only a variance that's been taken away on the side setback, which I don't quite understand. Can we speak to arborist reports? I took a look at the arborist report, and they kind of quickly said that if you could dig 6 inches onto the boulevard, and that would only minorly damage the silver maple. I think it's important, if one were to look, not at the picture that's sitting up, that's offered up, but just to look and see that there's quite a rise there, and it's a huge silver maple. Anyways, I see my time is coming up. So in conclusion, please reduce variance 4 and eliminate variance 2 and 3. Thank you very much.
Okay, your points are noted. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Morrison? Okay, there being none, let's then bring out the last set of speakers. That's Jordan Jarvis and an Ashwin Sankar. Jordan Jarvis and Ashwin Sankar.
My name is Ashwin Sankar. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please state your name and address for the records, please.
Hi, I'm Ashwin Sankar. I live at 349 Briar Hill Avenue, which is 2 houses west of the proposed development. And my wife is sitting beside me. But we just have 2 points to make. The first point is that our street essentially has lots that are thin and long, and nobody on the south side of Briar Hill Avenue has a house that exceeds 17 meters in length. That is what this proposed development is proposing, and that is what we are against, because as has been said repeatedly, that has implications with respect to privacy and with respect to sunlight for us as well as our neighbors. The second point I'd like to make, or to echo Scott's point, which was the fact that the impact on the trees, particularly a beautiful tree that lines our street and the front side of it, will have to have considerable alterations made to it. And that will affect the dynamic of the street because it's a beautiful tree-lined street, and changing the configuration of that will have impact on light also in the frontage and the front side of the proposed development and on the street. Those are the 2 points, and I thank the committee for hearing our concerns.
Okay, thank you so much. Members, do you have any question of Mr. Sankar, please? Okay, there being none, let's bring the speaker back out. Mr. Mr. Babak Gassemi. Mr. Gassemi, you're there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, that's great.
Yes, I'm
and
here.
You've heard all of the speakers that have shared their concerns. You've got 5 minutes to rebut. If you can share those rebuts with the committee members.
Thank you very much. There were a lot of points were raised. I'll try to touch base with them as much as possible with respect to time. In terms of the massing that was raised from one of the neighbors, our proposal is within the maximum permitted height. We don't have any variance for sidewall height. We don't have any variance for front and rear side setback. We only ask for one side setback, which is on the west side. And the reason for it is that we have a right of way on the east side. In terms of addition, one of the neighbors mentioned that this is a new build. If they don't care about what would be the impact if this was an addition, I think it's very important, because if we were to develop this property with an addition, we could build up to where our rear wall is currently proposed, and we did not even have to be in the committee because we wouldn't trigger any variances. But we don't think an addition would be appropriate. The current house is very close to the neighbor on the west side. We want to improve the existing setback from 16 centimeters to 60 centimeters. In regards to rear deck, we don't have any variance right now about the deck in the back. The privacy screen is a solution that working with planning, it was a solution that actually addresses the concern with overlooking and privacy. We are open to have a 6 foot high privacy screen on the deck to avoid to address that concern. In terms of integral garage, we are permitted to have an integral garage. First floor height, we're only asking for a 10 centimeter variance. Dimming length is actually extended and projected from the front wall where the existing house is. That means it does not have any impact on any of the neighbors. In terms of forestry, we started working with the forestry department well early in the process. There's a beautiful city tree in front of the property. You can see it on our renderings. We are protecting that beautiful tree, and we are working with forestry to protect as much tree as possible. And we are totally okay with having the applicable conditions based on forestry. With that, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you for that. Members, are there any questions of Mr. Gassemi? Okay, that being none, there being none, you've heard from the speakers, you've heard the rebuttal. You do know there's 5 variances, of which they've been altered. A number of letters of objections on the file. Can I get a motion? If there's, okay, so I was going to offer if you wanted to take it into committee to discuss, but I see Mr. Kidd had his hand up. Member Kidd, please proceed.
Madam Chair, having listened to all the speakers here, I feel that the application as amended, it does strike me as being a minor in nature, and I'm going to put forward a motion to accept the application as amended. I think you've read the changes into the record, and that's my proposal without condition.
Okay, so thank you. Yes, I did read those changes. Member Kidd with a motion to approve this application with the 3 changes that we've already noted earlier on file. Can I have someone to second that? Seconded by Member Bartolo. All those in favor? Okay. All those dissenting? Member Manning dissenting. Mr. Gassemi, your application has been approved with those conditions. Now, members,
Thank you very much.
thank you. It's 1:35. Let's take, is it okay for a 45-minute break, or would you need the full hour? What would work for you? Jump in and let me know.
Yeah, for 45, the shorter the better for me. 45 minutes is good.
Okay, so 45. We'll see you back here at, what time is it? 2, so 2. Just see you back in 45. Thank you.